Okay, welcome to the first legitimate episode of Frame Rate. I'm Frame. This is my co-host Rate.
Hello.
He goes by Tristan, but you don't have to call him that if you see him in person.
Yeah, so this is our first official one. We're excited to be doing this. Um, we just obviously we explained a little bit in the last one where we're going to be doing a lot of like reviews about like TV shows and movies and stuff. So this time around for this first official episode, we went and watched Captain America: Brave New World. And it was a brave new take on something nobody wanted to see. Harrison Ford being Harrison Ford.
Oh, I was like, what did you mean? What was the new take?
The villain was just Harrison Ford when someone talks to him about Han Solo.
It was actually the Green Giant's younger brother. Spoiler warning for anybody listening that hasn't watched Captain America: Brave New World, but I imagine none of you cared.
And if you didn't know that the Red Hulk or Harrison Ford was in it, then you didn't watch any of the trailers.
So pretty much, I think, we should go through the good we saw, the bad we saw, and then the things that we thought could just be improved. Because all in all, I didn't dislike this movie.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I thought that it was a good time, but
It definitely was not my favorite Marvel movie I've ever seen.
no,
If I had to put it in like tiers, I'd put it in like C tier.
it'd be at like the bottom of C for me.
Yeah, like really just mid, average.
Yeah, it wasn't superb, but like Anthony Mackie had a good performance. Harrison Ford had a good performance. Um, those are really the performances I can like applaud. Um, just real quick, I guess I will.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know. Me and Trevor have talked about this a lot. It's not necessarily the greatest phase for Marvel. It's been really dry. Anything. I mean, I don't know if that's just because I'm burned out of like superhero movies. Because I mean, when did Phase One start? 2008.
2008.
Yeah, so it's been
It's been a long time.
we're
It's
3 years.
almost been 20
I say we're
years.
3 years shy of 20 years of just nonstop Marvel, and it's been great for the most part. But ultimately, I don't know. It's just coming to one of those points where I'm like, I like the finer things in life, like a storyline that's put together.
I like feeling emotionally attached to the things I'm watching, being able to
And
relate to it, and
the,
like
one can say that Marvel is kind of becoming watered down. I am one to say that, just because I think that. How do I articulate this? I just think that Marvel has so many storylines to go off of because the comic books span from one to infinity, right? Like
that's the point.
there's endless,
They had an Infinity Saga and
right,
everything.
right? Like there's so many storylines, and so they adapt. Like I don't know. I feel like Marvel now is kind of in the boat of okay, well, we have to adapt them all, and I think that's kind of dumb, personally. Like,
I
anyways, we
I
can.
think my opinion right now is you know, from like right after Endgame to probably about like late 2022, like Marvel had their whole like quantity over quality type crisis with like all of the shows they were releasing on Disney Plus and like the movies that got bombarded with negative reviews and that genuinely were bad and
Yeah.
not entertaining and just like CGI mud the whole way through. And I think at this point, they've listened to their viewers. They kind of just had to go through that little bit because they just made the stuff thinking like, oh my gosh, Endgame was like the second highest grossing movie of all time. We're gonna ride off of this high
Yeah. Well, and
forever. And
they brought in a lot of characters, like in Endgame all at once. So then they were like, okay, well, we can continue to just. People like seeing multiple storylines and huge team ups,
yeah,
which it's been something that they've been hinting at for the last like 5 years.
yeah, I
But we
think
haven't
they're
like received like anything in regards to Avengers.
yeah, they're experiencing like the fallout of the the mud
Yeah,
of like the COVID era,
yeah.
really.
Well, and I feel like
They
most.
they made all of this stuff. They introduced all of these characters, and they're like, well, we had this whole thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, with the Falcon taking on the mantle of Captain America and what that means to him. We should probably like not abandon that idea fully by making another Captain America movie. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what they did. But like,
Well, and if you look at it, like most major movie titles kind of go through this where there's a big lead up. They have their big movie, like they have the big movie that like grosses a lot. People love. It's one of like the best ever made. People are like, this is easily the best in the series, and then they try to put out another movie after that, and everyone's like, ew.
yeah,
And you see that happen with like everything. Like you think of Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Like everything led up to At World's End, right? And then At World's End comes to an end, and they're like, "Oh, this is great." And so then they make, I think it's what's the next one? I don't remember what. Dead Man Tell No Tales is the
that's
last
number
one.
5. Yeah.
What's the fourth one? It's got Blackbeard in it.
Yeah. It was at the time. It might still be, but it was the most expensive movie ever made. It was like $430 million.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that one was terrible.
I am.
Okay.
Like there's the scene in it where Jack Sparrow jumps out of a tower into like the moat surrounding it, and then he comes out, he's like, did anybody see that? Because I will not be doing that again. And that is how I felt about that franchise. They should have we saw the first 3 and they should just not do it again. But
hmm
then they did it again. And they're like, I'm so sorry about the 4th one being so bad. Here's a 5th one that's better, but still not great.
See, I thought that the fifth one was the worst.
Mm, I don't
I
agree with that
I thought the
part.
fifth one was the worst because they made Jack Sparrow out to be kind of an idiot.
Yeah, they
Which
did make him kind of like,
he's like a side character in that movie.
mm-hmm.
And I didn't like that. But anyways, like you see that happen with movies all the time.
Yeah, like
Where
what just happened with Indiana Jones, They made a 5th one to apologize for how bad the 4th one was.
yeah,
But, just
the
like with
damage has already been done
yeah,
at that
like
point.
I mean, like I can appreciate with Indiana Jones, not to get sidetracked, but like, they killed off Shia LaBeouf's character to as like for more emotional impact for Indiana, and it actually worked.
hmm
But I Marvel's not really doing that. Like, right after Endgame was over, like it seemed like Spider-Man was the only person that actually mourned the death of Iron Man and his sacrifice. And then like with Captain America Brave New World, like they don't really mourn. Obviously, like they're well past it now, but like the comparison to Steve Rogers occurs once in the heat of a moment, and like I think it's meant to be used as like a bit of leverage for Sam Wilson to like be himself and not Steve Rogers, be his own Captain America, which is, something that I would applaud. Like I don't want him to try and
Yeah,
be Steve Rogers,
yeah.
but like
I don't know. I just feel like part of it missed the mark for me in this movie, just because we're watching Sam Wilson, who is an average dude, take on superhuman stuff, right? Like
mhm.
we
They're trying
watched
to make him like Batman level durable, but at least Batman's rich.
yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And it's just kind of weird. I feel like they're trying to make personally, like after because we went and watched this movie a week ago, by the way. So I've had some good time to sit on like my thoughts and talk with my wife about it. And I've decided that in my mind that this movie is like, what is this, phase five?
I believe so.
Phase five Marvel trying to merge and make an Iron Man and Captain America figure, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you think about it, Falcon really just is like, especially now, like when Falcon first came out, like Falcon was just a dude with wings, but
Mm-hmm.
now he's got all funky gizmos and
Yeah,
gadgets. He's got wings
he
that are made
became
out of
like
vibranium.
Wakanda gave him
Yeah.
Black Panther's like kinetic energy transfer
So he really is
metal.
just like an Iron Man level character. So it seems to me like they're trying to merge. And I mean, if you look back
Nanotech
on the
helmet and
movie,
all.
yeah, if you look back on it too, like the the movie really kind of thrusts him into that position, anyways, right? Where they're like, you're gonna start the Avengers, like Tony Stark did, but you're also Captain America. So I don't know.
It was really
It was
like
like watching an Iron Man movie, but without the cool stuff that made Iron Man, like Ozzy Osbourne or burning jihadists in a tunnel.
yeah. Um yeah, I mean like I remember like saying that to you as we walked out of the theater that it felt almost more like an Iron Man film. Mostly just because of like the way that Iron Man 3 went with facing, a terrorist threat. This one is just it's technically a terrorist threat,
It's like a domestic terrorist.
but like I guess, spoiler warning here.
I mean,
The
first off, if you're coming to listen to our podcast on a movie, you should know going forward, spoilers.
yeah.
If you haven't seen the movie that is involved in the title,
It came
don't
out a
watch our
month ago.
don't watch our podcast.
But pretty much like as we've already talked about it explores how Sam Wilson tries to become Captain America, but he is still an agent of the government where Steve Rogers wasn't that, which that is explored at the very beginning when to open the movie, they go to Mexico and have a military operation which Captain America is at the front of.
Right.
And then after they return and they're successful with their mission, the president, Thaddeus Ross Harrison Ford, invites him and Joaquin Torres, who's now the Falcon, to the White House for this big presentation where they finally remember that in Eternals, they had the Celestial come out of the Earth, and turns out his dead body is made of adamantium, which honestly, I think that's actually a good bit of writing.
Yeah, I don't mind
Like
that.
you want to introduce another like honestly very important piece to Marvel lore is
Yeah.
this metal that like up to this point has not been mentioned or even exists yet. And you're like, how are you gonna do this? Like, you want to have another meteorite made of it land in Africa, or like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
And while they're at this presentation, they bring Isaiah Bradley, who, if you didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he is the very first, well, not the very first. He's the first super soldier after
Steve
Steve Rogers
Rogers.
goes under. When the government attempted to recreate the serum, they gave it to Isaiah Bradley, who was then imprisoned wrongly and tested on, and lots of trauma.
Yeah.
But but Sam and Bucky helped him out, get out of his funk. So they
Just
invite
for him to go back into the
yeah,
funk.
they invite him to come with them to the White House. And he complies, but then out of nowhere, you hear a noise, a song that you can't place, and then all of a sudden Isaiah Bradley stands up, steals a Secret Service agent's gun, and points it directly at the president and fires, but misses, even though he had him point blank.
Yeah.
And then he goes on the run. They can't stop him, and then all of a sudden he winds up in a park and he doesn't know where he is and how he got there.
Anthony Mackie's like, sun's getting real low.
Yeah. Hey, big guy, you gotta stop.
So then Isaiah Bradley's imprisoned. Uh, the president invites like Captain America and Falcon and Isaiah, like not really Isaiah, but they come along, to restart the Avengers and to work with him on this, even
Oh
though
yeah, I forgot to
they've
mention that.
had like
That happened before.
disagreements.
That happened
Yeah,
before he was shot at.
yeah, and Anthony Mackie's like, well, not Anthony, I guess Captain America. Sorry, Captain America's like, oh, okay, well, if we're gonna do this, then like you have to be able to trust me. And then after the whole Isaiah Bradley thing goes off, Captain America goes in and confronts the president and was like, "Let me help." And he's like, "Oh, my trust went out the door when you got off my plane." No,
Yeah.
no, but he was like, "Your friend just tried to shoot and kill me, so that bridge is burned. You're too close. Don't get involved." Which is kind of a dumb thing.
Yeah, I mean, like on the face of it, it does like make sense. Like even with regular real life internal, not eternal, internal matters.
Yeah,
Like, hey, you're close to this person. Like your help might be biased
yeah.
because you think you can help them or you can save them or whatever.
Hmm.
But obviously, because this movie needed an hour and a half more of content,
He ignores that.
Sam blatantly ignores. He, somehow sways one of the military guards at this military prison that Isaiah is being kept at to talk to him. And, he finds out, which when I was watching the movie, like, I don't know how they could have made it any more obvious that when Isaiah didn't know where he was or how he got there, that he was being mind controlled. But Captain America did not find out that he was being mind controlled until Isaiah told him through the in their prison visitation that
He
he
didn't
did
remember.
not do that on his own. And so Sam literally says, "Mind control."
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in my seat going, "Ah."
They fly now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Somehow mind control returned. Like, come on. But afterward,
Well, and especially,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a really weird story. That's a really weird thing for me because they literally like mention like 30 seconds, not 30 seconds, but like right before that, where they're like, I know something about mind control. I have a friend who was like that, right? In
Yeah.
reference to the Winter
They
Soldier, right? So,
Yeah, and also the widows
yeah,
because the president's like personal security is a former widow.
yeah. And so we've had a bunch of movies that have already explained mind control,
And how to get out of it.
and Sam Wilson's best friend is a former mind controlled KGB agent, and he's like, mind control, really? Tell me something I don't know.
Yeah, I like it's a bit of it. Yeah.
And I mean, I understand it's convenient, helps the story move along, but really, if there's anything we've learned in the Marvel universe,
The Unihorse.
if there's anything we've learned in Marvel, if you want something done, just control the minds of someone, right?
It's really easy.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's definitely like a plot.
Yeah,
I don't want to say plot
it's
armor, but it's
reused.
whatever the opposite of plot armor is, where it's like it's an easy thing to
It's a
blame on.
cliche.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
um
And so that starts this like whole storyline where like I guess that's where it splits the movie into two stories.
yes, you start
Where
to follow. Sorry, I cut you off.
no, you're good.
Go ahead. That was
All I was
good.
gonna say is like from that point on, like to that point in the movie, really like the storyline is focused on trying to get like a joint country treaty accord signed so that they can all harvest the adamantium from the celestial together in harmony, and no one gets to claim ownership over it.
Yes, between the United States, France, India, and Japan, because it's in the Indian Ocean, and so India obviously gets a hand on it. but the United States needs to be a part of that, so they get over there.
And so, like, that's been the storyline up to this moment, and then right there, it, like, I don't know, that's where I kinda got a little bit lost, was where it was like, we're doing Secret Agent Man, but also we're doing foreign policy.
Yeah, like obviously a lot of this movie simply like because they marketed Red Hulk and Harrison Ford turning into the Red Hulk.
Harrison Ford being asked about Han Solo,
Yeah.
in my mind. That's canon.
They needed a way to like set up for that rather than just have Thaddeus Ross be like, "I have a secret you don't know about."
I'm angry.
Yeah, because they set up from the beginning when he's like the very first scene of the movie is like I can't remember if it was before like the first rally right after Thaddeus Ross got elected president. And Sam, as well as lots of other people who know what Ross did in the past and with the Sokovia Accords and what they did with Bruce Banner and the Incredible Hulk, like this guy's off the rails.
Yeah, he's known for being angry.
He like can't be trusted with like
And he
something as
hates,
big as the
well, and
presidency,
I'm
and he hates monsters.
gonna say, he hates superheroes. Like, it's a little, that's something I do want to touch on real quick. It was really hard for me to associate that. Obviously, I know that the guy who played, I don't know his name, I apologize, but the guy who originally played Thaddeus Ross, he died in real life, right?
William Hurt.
William Hurt died in real life, so they replaced him with Harrison Ford. That's the same Thaddeus Ross that, uh, that's the same Thaddeus Ross that, like, was in the very first Hulk movie when they didn't have Mark Ruffalo as Hulk, right?
Edward Norton.
I didn't make that connection until like at the very end of the movie when they show a picture of Liv Tyler on the desk, and I'm like, oh yeah, he really hates these people,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's a little difficult. It's a little, they don't address it enough in the movie.
It's like if you know it, it makes what happened to make him the Red Hulk like more of like a good like plot point, like how it's written in
Hmm.
because of his hatred for
The
like Hulk
Hulk,
type monsters,
yeah,
specifically the Hulk, because of how it divided his
him and
relationship with his daughter. Because that's another major like character developing point is like
yeah,
at the very beginning in that same first scene, before he walks out to the stage, he asks his stage manager or his assistant or whoever it is if his daughter has contacted him or called him back because he misses his daughter and he wants to show her that he's changed and that he's better and not as irrational because Betty Ross loved Bruce Banner and he's the reason why it didn't work.
yeah.
He got in between them and tried to
and
kill him.
and once you remember that storyline, it helps, like, it makes the end of the movie like connect. But if you don't, like, if you don't remember that and you don't associate like those two guys as being the same guys, it really makes it confusing. Like, my wife was really confused until we explained it to her, and then she was like, "Oh, right." And I also just think it was funny. I just want to point out that one of my favorite things about the movie, was how they address, uh, Harrison Ford stepping into the role. Like, you're used to the other guy, and he's got a mustache, and he's obviously dead, so they can't put him in. So they
Hmm.
replace him with Harrison Ford, and Captain America goes up and he's like, "I like the new look," and you're like, "That was obvious," and he's like, "Yeah, it was either I got the presidency or I kept the mustache," and
Yeah.
you're like, "Ha, that was stupid."
Yeah, but I think like I probably would have disliked more if they had said like he had like if they had just like off screen, he got in a really bad helicopter accident and needed facial reconstruction surgery.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that that's how they like address the whole. You're not the same actor. Yeah, I lost the mustache. Oh, that's right. And let me tell you, they have some pictures of Harrison Ford with that dark mustache. That's what nightmares are made of. That is my paralysis
Yeah, it's
demon.
really uncanny. But
Good move.
mm, honestly, I like the the casting choice.
Mhm.
I love Harrison Ford. I
Yeah.
think he's great even when he's
Yeah, and I didn't have a problem with Harrison Ford. I
yeah.
just thought it was a little cheesy.
Yeah, I
I mean,
my
granted, there's not really a right way to do that.
my guess is that Kevin Feige was like, I don't want to make it all complicated. Like, just say like he had to shave his mustache and move on.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah,
Um. Anyway,
humor.
so it splits the storyline. And Captain America and the new Falcon go and try to investigate why this mind control is going on, and then it just like occasionally shows clips of Harrison Ford trying to do foreign policy,
Yeah,
which is not
it
really
all like
entertaining.
yeah, it all leads up. It's like it's still important information because it all leads up to the climax of. I guess it's really the end of the second act
Yeah,
when that happens. But like you see throughout, like in secret, that Harrison Ford is taking these pills. You're like, why is he taking pills? Does he have an opioid addiction? What's going on? Because they look really small.
yeah,
That's genuinely what I thought of because he keeps them in a
like hidden,
circular
and
container
yeah, it
that
keeps him
people.
hidden away. Like he like
Yeah,
glances around.
yeah. And then back to the story of Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres. Sam is on his way back from visiting Isaiah, and um, out of nowhere, I guess. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about him, but the Giancarlo Stanton, no, Esposito. Giancarlo Stanton is a different person.
He's an MLB player.
Yeah, Giancarlo
Giancarlo Stanton
Esposito.
comes out of nowhere
Sorry,
and just hits a
I only
home
know of
run.
two Giancarlos, and I got it wrong. But Giancarlo Esposito's character, who was introduced at the opening scene of the movie, he's the leader of this. I don't really know if
The
it's like
Snake
the
Gang.
serpent or something. I think
Yeah,
I can't remember because it is definitely like in a future movie they will be the main antagonists,
yeah.
but not this one.
It's basically the new
He's just
Hydra.
he's a crime lord.
Yeah, it's like the new Captain America's
It felt
Hydra.
more like what Iron Man 3 tried to make the Mandarin.
Yeah.
Just like, here's this one guy who he's really good with guns, and he's got a bunch of cronies who are not good with guns, but they have guns. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But out of nowhere, I think his character's name is Seth
Sure.
because it sounds like a snake is saying Seth. I don't know, but out of nowhere, the poor, you know, GMC that Captain America is driving gets
Blown
shot
up.
at. He gets shot at, and then while he's trying to, you know, really haphazardly raise up one arm and duck a little from the bullets he's taking in the front windshield, all of a sudden you cut to Giancarlo, and he's got a bazooka, and then he blows up the truck, and you're like, oh well,
Roll credits.
yeah, it's like either plot armor or hey, looks like Joaquin Torres is Captain America. But like, and then honestly, one of the more cringy things, like this is the one thing I probably would say is Giancarlo Esposito's fault, is the line delivery of like after he blows up, he's like, I can't remember exactly the line, but he says something along the lines of like, await like proof of death or something. It's like target down, stand by for proof of death. And
Date of
it's
death.
like
Time of death.
that sounds like
12
something
o'clock.
I would say in like a home movie when I was like 12. It's like I just shot this guy.
Well, and clearly he didn't
Stand
know.
by for proof of death. It's like,
Would we?
and then right after he says that, because obviously it had to happen right
Because
after
it's
he said
Captain
it.
America's movie.
Yeah. Boom. There's Sam Wilson. Not a scratch. He just had his windshield shatter, and while he had his arm raised up, no cuts.
The
Makeup took,
bazooka blows up the truck.
and he's definitely
No
close by.
no singes on the shirt.
Nothing.
Well, doesn't he pop right out from behind the blown up truck? Homie's just sitting there like, "Ooh, this is really hot, but we gotta hold on, wait. Time and Death? Oh, yeah, there's my cue.
who
I'm
was
alive.
yeah. They fight for a little bit. You
And
know,
Captain America really kind of gets his ass kicked.
he gets stabbed by these two they're technically axes, but they look more like the type of axes that like mountain climbers use when they're trying to get up a glacier face.
Yeah, like an ice pick.
Yeah, he gets stabbed in the left pec and in the stomach.
And then he gets another, like a knife thrown at him, doesn't he?
Yes, and
Because then he takes that out and he throws it at the one guy.
mm-hmm, he just leaves him there. But then he runs away. Giancarlo's character says something about him running away, and then all of a sudden he got gasoline somehow. Where? I don't know, but he got it, and you see it's a shot of him pouring it over things. It's not gasoline. He got like ammonia, and he makes ammonia. He pours it over a, a car battery that's just there, dissolving it, and then it creates like an ammonia gas, which hides him. And then Giancarlo is looking around, and then you just see in a straight up the cop from Body with a Chance of Meatballs type run, Flint Lockwood, and he tackles Giancarlo Esposito. I don't want to say Seth Volker every time. Literally, Giancarlo Esposito he was just minding his business. He just found the set and he just started beating up Anthony Mackie because he doesn't like him for some reason. I don't know, but and then Anthony Mackie, because of his cleverness of creating an ammonia gas, and he takes out one of the knives out of his left pec and then stabs Giancarlo, and then just kind of leaves him.
Yep.
And then he gets arrested somehow.
Yeah.
I don't think I remember if they actually show him getting.
And then it just, I don't know. The next part of the movie, we really can just brush through because it's not really important.
No.
It shows them Captain America goes back and he's like, "I found a lead. You coming, Mr. Falcon Man, who I've been talking down to this entire movie?"
At the end of the fight with Giancarlo Esposito, he starts getting a phone call because there's all this stuff about the buyer who was trying, the person who was trying to buy the stuff that they were getting back from Mexico at the beginning of the movie. And they're like, "Who's this buyer? Who's your buyer? Who's this buyer?" And buyer started to become a word I didn't think was real.
Yeah.
Because they said it so much.
Yeah.
And he gets a phone call, and then Sam answers it, and obviously the guy on the other side of the line knows that Sam answered it and was expecting it, and then says something.
He takes the phone and throws it at the Falcon, and he's like, "Track the last call," and he magically was like,
He found the location of the call while he's having a full-on conversation with him the whole time. Looks like it's this military camp. It felt like that was the moment that it felt the most like they were really trying to be like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It was like, it's at this Camp Lehigh. Oh, that's where Captain America was in the first movie. And then at this one, it's like, it's at this camp. Like, you coming? And then they go, and Joaquin makes a quip about, having snacks for the road.
"Yeah,
He's clearly the comic relief
yeah," and
that you feel like, oh, they're setting up for something bad to happen to him.
yeah, I didn't.
Spoiler warning again. Something bad happens.
I don't like him.
He's.
I don't like the.
I just think they've done too much with him too quickly.
Well,
Because they introduced him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like he was becoming the Falcon while Sam was becoming Captain America.
yeah, I just don't like. There's too much of a gap between Falcon and the Winter Soldier in this movie, so it's really hard to remember all these things because
Yeah.
I was someone who
They
didn't
waited too
care
long.
for Captain America and the Winter Soldier, right? Falcon and the Winter
It
Soldier.
was like Captain America: The Winter Soldier was awesome. That movie was great.
No, but I don't know. Marvel has made this their calling card where they have to have some character be a smartass and quip. And most of the time,
Spider-Man.
well, not most of the time, it works out, right? Like Star-Lord works out. Tony Stark works out. Spider-Man especially works out because that's like his entire character, right? But this one felt a little forced to me. Like anytime that he was on screen and he said anything, it like I expected a laugh track, like from sitcoms, just because I was like, ugh,
Yeah.
brother, ugh, right? So it just is one of those things where I'm like, I could have. I know that this is Marvel's calling card, and it's like they have to throw in that Disney magic every single movie they film, right? But it just was something where I'm like, you were painting this movie as a serious movie, right? Like, and up to this point, like they've had like a little comedy, like comical moments, but this is definitely taking a far more serious tone of a movie than I would think any Marvel movie has taken.
Really?
Yeah, like it's pretty serious. They're going for like the something's wrong,
I
right?
guess yeah, at one point in the movie, shortly after this scene, honestly, like you cut back to the prison that Isaiah is being held in, as well as some of the other people that were mind controlled into shooting at the president. And you see the military guy who let Sam in like secretly, um, just start acting like all robotic, while the former widow, the personal security of the president, is like all confused, and then you see him like open up the prison door that all of the mind controlled soldiers except for Isaiah are being held in, and then he just pulls out a gun and just shoots them, and you just watch that happen, and then this was the part that was like obviously it makes a little bit more sense because she's like a former widow, and like she is definitely a lot cooler under that kind of experience, under that kind of pressure. But it was just like, why aren't you like freaking out that this soldier just opened fire out
Yeah,
of nowhere on this guy?
yeah.
And like,
That's
then you whip out your gun and you're like, put down the gun. It's like, this guy just murdered people.
well, and then they show him,
Shoot the.
and then they show like off camera. They hint to the fact that the soldier who's being mind controlled shoots himself,
Yeah, you watch him
right?
put the gun up to his chin, and she watches him.
Yeah, right. So it's like the movie's taking like a very, very serious tone. Definitely serious than like most Phase One, and I would say
Mm-hmm.
that Phase One has probably been the most serious that Marvel's has been because that was before they found the Disney magic, where people were like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of funny, but also fun," you know,
Fart joke.
like before all that stuff happens, it was really serious, and this movie's like really serious. But then they have him who keep like the Falcon that keeps coming in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, bro, I was gonna bring the snacks. Oh, we're going right now? Shut up." Like, come on, man. I don't know.
I
I wasn't
yeah.
a fan. I wasn't, and I also just feel like I get that Falcon is Captain America's like side piece, like
Hmm,
sidekick.
maybe not that word. I mean, I don't know.
Redact,
I doubt they'll go that far.
redact that. No, his sidekick. Oh, his Nesquik.
Chocolate milk all the time,
No,
even
his
strawberry.
sidekick. But I don't know. I just felt like this was a little forced. Like,
Yeah, it just didn't feel like, because we hadn't seen either of them since Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which that was like 4 years ago. Like, I don't know if they were trying to imply, like, hey, they've had 4 years of chemistry now,
well,
and you just have to deal with that.
they must have because Bucky's running for Congress now,
Yeah, there's that one too, but that doesn't, you don't find that out till later.
and you don't even find it out.
Yeah,
He just shows up, and you're like, "Why are you in a suit? Why is your hair
I
trimmed?
gotta go. I got a campaign fundraiser. Like,
Why do you look like a '50s greaser?"
well, I mean, he was still around. Through that. Um, Now if I'm remembering correctly, after they get on the road and
They
after you
track the
see,
call to the.
yeah, they track the call to that military camp, which I can't remember where exactly it's
It's
located.
in like North Carolina or somewhere. It's like the
Yeah,
gray site. Basically, it's
yeah,
just a place that everything gets tracked to when things are not trackable.
yeah,
And they're like, "Oh yeah, this is what happens when you don't want to be tracked. It tracks to this location, so there must be something there." That was something that I thought was stupid. That they're like, this doesn't exist. It's not a real place because
Yeah, it's
people
like
just have it be a fictional place.
it was like a former place that's since been shut down, but it's used as like a placebo.
So the bad
So
guy must be hiding out there. That's a stretch. If you just said that no one uses it anymore, I feel like that was stupid.
yeah,
Like,
well, I think
unless the
maybe they
guy
weren't
wanted,
necessarily saying like, oh, hey, the buyer isn't there. I mean, they tracked the call to that location, so it's like a little different. But
then
like,
yeah, but
if anything, they were going to at least get information. But
yeah,
while they're going, it cuts to Air Force One and
Harrison
Harrison
Ford's
Ford on a
working out.
Peloton. Um,
And he is actually, that's like the only real scene from Captain America because he's tired. He gets off and he's like, "Don't tell my doctor. Tell my doctor I did the full thing." And then his aide's like, "No," and he's like, "Yes."
yeah,
I
they're
related to that scene.
yeah, they're on like because like up until this point, the president and his cabinet have been in the presidential bunker because he had just been attacked and they were trying to keep him safe. And because of that, France and India opted initially were opting out of the treaty because clearly the United States, like, they have other issues going on, and so they have to take charge of their own thing.
And if they don't get Japan on board,
Then
then
they
no
won't
one's
be
on
on
board.
board. And so Harrison Ford's like, "All right, we're going to Japan because I have a lasting connection with the prime minister. Did you ever know that?" No, but he does. And so he goes to Japan, talks to Japan.
Let me tell you, Japan's White House is a lot cooler than our White House.
Yes, very pretty. They got cherry blossoms outside the dang walls, and they got a
They got
they
like
got
the
a
walls
koi pond.
perfectly positioned to catch like the sun as it's coming down.
Because Japan is the best. They have the best architects out there when it comes to artistry. But you find out that this connection that the Japanese prime minister and the president have,
Isn't real.
it's a farce.
Because the Japanese president's like, pound sand.
Hey, our version of the CIA are telling me that
Your CIA.
like that stuff in Mexico that you went and saved, that was ours, and you stole it. And then President Ross is like, "What are you talking about?
You're wrong.
I did not do that."
Get off my
You said
plane.
that. They weren't on a plane.
I'm just gonna keep throwing it random every time I see Harrison Ford and
As the
he's trying to
president.
when he's trying to act serious. I immediately think of that one.
Get off my plane. And so, before the president and like I'm gonna assume the Secret Service agents that were with him leave, they're like in like a guest room of this Japanese embassy or something, and like his two assistants are like talking a lot, and they're arguing about the potential fallout of like the treaty not being signed and what they need to do. And Harrison, like, you get the slow zoom in on Harrison Ford as he's getting overstimulated and he's freaking out and he's sweating. And so
He's basically just turning into my wife. When there's a lot of pressure going on,
and
my
so
wife turns into the Red Hulk. I
he
love you, Grace. If you listen to this far, I'm sorry.
he he slams his fist on the the marble table in front of him, and it cracks. You're like, wow, that was crazy. He's
Ooh.
strong. Do the assistants, are they gonna take note of that? No.
They're like, noted.
Hey, this 75-year-old man just cracked a marble table. Yeah.
Immediately, they cut to also a conversation of, hey, we're in Japan. We're at the Prime Minister's place. We're going to send out our carrier fleet and
Yeah.
do
We're
what
just gonna
America
have
does
to.
best get the oil from the Celestial.
So I mean metal. The metal from the Celestial. There could be oil.
That's why they're going.
um, and so at this point, you don't know what's gonna happen after that. all you know is that all of a sudden the United States and Japan are no longer on friendly terms. Which
And
if any of you,
they're
if
kind of hinting at like World War III.
yeah, if any of you have been keeping up at home when it comes to your history, the last time U.S. and Japan were not on good terms, let's just say a little boy got involved. That's a little
And
history
the fat
bug.
man was not happy.
Yeah, Enola Gay went crazy.
That's terrible.
And
And then it cuts to Sam
and
and
Joaquin, they
Joaquin. And then they're in that weird random underground bunker.
Mhm.
That's one of my favorite scenes ever. We're like, we got to be super secretive how we sneak into this old military base. Red Wing cut out a perfectly shaped human-sized hole in the chain link fence instead of cutting like a slit that they can sneak through and then sneak back through and no one would know for days. They're like, I'm thinking 6 foot by like 3. Let's go 4. See if we can get our
I'm
wings
pretty
through there.
wide.
I got the shield on my back, so I'm not gonna slip in sideways. I'm gonna walk directly through like it's a door.
And so, Red Wing just there's a hole and they walk in and you're like, don't most military things have like something on the
Well, they do
fences?
have guards there
Yeah, I mean, you can
who
see that
are.
there were guards, but like at this point, like people could be mind controlled. You don't know what's going on, and so they're like patrolling. You're like, oh yeah, they're clearly robots. Those aren't real people. They're just marching in line because they have to. And so, then, they have like honestly like kind of a neat scene when they're actually sneaking into the actual bunker. They're outside of the door, and Joaquin obviously at this point because he's tracked down calls,
He's like the
he's
Swiss Army
he's
knife.
the tech guy. Like, hey, you got to hack into this keypad so we can get into the door. And so, you see him, like they have like 15 seconds. They like timed the guards like routine, and they have like 15 seconds to get into the door without anyone noticing. And you just see Joaquin tear off the front panel of the keypad,
Beep, boop, 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 beep,
and
beep,
then
boop.
you don't really see him do much else because obviously, what do you tell an actor? How do you direct that? Just act like you're getting in.
And it doesn't work. So then Captain America just does what Captain America does, takes the shield and uses it as a
Bang!
glorified like crowbar. He's like, doors open.
Vibranium can't break, so it can break anything.
Which is better than arguably, at least in that situation, he's like, you mean kind of. If it was Steve Rogers, he would just punch the keypad, the door opens, door closes.
Yeah, this the Star Wars logic. Hey, if you shoot the keypad, it opens the door, but also if you shoot the keypad, it locks it. Yeah. And so they get in there and like, the outside, it wasn't I wouldn't say swarming with guards because they had time to get in the door, but there were still people patrolling. So you'd imagine
There's
probably
gonna be
people on
people
the inside.
inside.
No.
No. Not a single soul. Everything's dark. You have an occasional light flicker.
You
And they
have, the
come.
classic like, oh, you can see like the ventilation fans spinning and like the light flickers because you can see the shadow of the fan. Like,
And
oh
they come
yeah,
across
we're
one
clearly
cell.
underground.
They come across one cell that has a big lock on it. And Joaquin goes, They must have held something big down here. Oh.
Yeah, and so Captain America does what Captain America does best, and once again, he uses the shield and he just punches the lock, and they open the door. And then they go in there.
And they find literally
It's
everything.
like oh my gosh, this is like a lab in here. And then Joaquin makes the very poignant comment like, "Why do they have a lab in a prison?" We were all thinking that, Joaquin.
And then magically, he's like, "Oh wow, look at this folder. This has got everything we need."
He's got this guy. He's got the DNA of these people. And like obviously like there's a shot. There's a specific shot where like it shows the like obviously like the military pictures of the soldiers that were at the White House that shot at the president, but like the initial camera shot that you see is like clearly focused on Isaiah Bradley's face all the way on the right. And then but because it like that came first, when you're looking at it, you're like, oh yeah, look, it's Isaiah. But then it, cuts over to a close up of Sam who notices it. And then like you have to watch him pan over the whole wall. And then he sees Isaiah and he's like, hang on a second. And like I'm sitting in the theater like,
It's like those
did the director
moments.
forget that people have peripheral vision?
It's like it's funny because it's like it reminded me of like Dora when they're like, "Hey,
Can you see Isaiah?
It's right there, Dora. Dora, it's right there."
Can you say Isaiah?
Oh, and so they go over files. Joaquin whips out a flash drive, and he's like, "I'm gonna download everything."
Yeah, and he finds that there's a file on the president, and he sees like
Pills.
there's like
It's like a prescription.
yeah, like take 3 a day, and like they don't really think about that, but they find a vial of pills, and
Which I also want to think is funny that, well, it's the scientist that's the bad guy who they confront in like 5 seconds.
yeah,
He's clearly like he hates Thaddeus Ross for keeping him prisoner.
yeah,
So I'm gonna tell him exactly how to take these pills. If you take more than 3 in a day, you're gonna overdose. 3's the limit.
yeah. I mean, obviously,
If
we
you
find
take
out
more than 8,
later.
if you
Like,
take more than 6 in 24 hours.
yeah, we find out later what the whole deal with the pills is, but they're all confused when they find them. But Sam sees that they're with Ross's file, and so he takes them just so he can find out what they are later. And then you hear a voice, which, like, I nothing against Tim Nelson,
He's not a villain, dude.
but he just doesn't have a good voice for how sinister they tried to make. Dun dun dun, the leader. Do they call him that at any point in this movie?
No.
No, because what is he supposed to lead?
Does he look like the leader from the comics? No.
If he got, in a terrible
He
accident.
looks like a finger that's been left underwater for too long.
They put a green raisin on this man's forehead. Poor guy had
And
to
they make his
probably
eyes-
sit through 3 hours in the makeup
They
chair.
make his eyes glow green.
Well, one of them, because he's like blind in the other.
Yeah, but it still reflects.
But like his voice was really what bothered me the most. Like I can understand why Marvel like slightly changes the designs for some things. Like obviously I don't really know because like for people that don't like know what the leader looks like in the comics, he looks like a regular like person.
He just got
He
a
just
big
has
forehead.
a really big head. Like it's just tall. It's not like Megamind type like a balloon airhead.
No, it's
type
just
thing.
tall.
It's just a tall head, and he's got
And a receding
well kept
hairline.
black hair that I don't know how anyone reaches it. But he's got hair on his head, and he's got like a Tony Stark type goatee. And then he just is sinister. He reminds me. I can't remember the name of the guy, but the Green Lantern villain.
That's what I was gonna say.
I can never remember this guy's name, but the red one, who's the Green Lantern who turns yellow.
Yeah.
They very much are similar to me.
Yeah.
Which I think they might be supposed to be. That might be I don't know this for certain, but it might be another case of like Marvel and DC ripping one another off.
Yeah, but he confronts them in the laboratory, and he's like, "You figured out my secret," and then he's like,
out that I hate Rufus. He kept me here.
"And now I'm gonna leave when you fight all of these guards." And he's like super polite. He's like, "Go get them, boys." And then he turns around and he's like, "Gotta make sure I lock the deadbolt." Beep boop boop
Yeah.
beep. Got the security system turned
This is when like we truly find out like how the mind control works, because they found the DNA that the leader had linked to these soldiers.
And then the TVs
and
start flashing in
the
the room.
the flashing lights is what initiated it, and then the song that he plays, which I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now, but it is like an old timey like 1940s love song.
So they fight their way through that.
And they've got like cattle prods, because obviously the military doesn't use guns.
Yeah. He
They
tries to
use
stab
cattle
him. He tries to stab him with a syringe, and you get this really funny scene of the guy where he's holding the syringe over Captain America's face, and he's like,
yeah.
And Joaquin like throws the cattle prod like it's a javelin.
Shocks him for a second, but
It's enough
Could
to
have been
make
less
him
time.
makes him not drop the needle and fall conveniently away from scratching distance.
And then, Sam is all like, I'm cool and I know how to fight. And so he does a cool thing, pushing off with his feet and gets the guy off of him, beats him up.
It's a lot of these fight scenes were like the scene in Boba Fett where the guy's like, you ever seen that? Like at the very end of the Book of Boba
I
Fett.
never watched the book of Boba Fett.
At the very end of the Book of Boba.
For people listening at home, Tristan just did an interpretive dance that ended with him pointing a finger gun at the wall.
Well, if anybody's watched the Book of Boba Fett, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like at the very end, they're like fighting off the. Oh, what are they called? Hold on, Star Wars.
Not seen it. Is it like a crime family?
It's a crime family. It's not the Hutts.
Are they like the snake looking ones?
Those are the ones that have the really long head. They've got like the weird eyes. Oh, I know their name. They're fighting them.
Yeah.
They're shown in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. I think it starts with like a K or something.
Yeah, they're fighting them, and one of the guys that is like working with Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, they're like fighting him in the streets, and he like does this weird like barrel roll, tuck spin, pirouette, and then he's like, pew! And you're like, what is this? That's like what all of these fight scenes include. Between Captain America and Joaquin. Like, they're just doing, like, funky moves. Captain America's throwing his shield around.
Eventually, they take down all the guys. But, like, I think...
They get out to the hallway, and there's all of the other guards that should have been there in the first place. Right there.
Yes. And then, what happens is...
The small Israeli widow.
Yes. Who, earlier, while the president was on Air Force One, he gets a call from the leader who like threatens him with something, like tells him that like he's secretly been doing something to get his revenge, and then he hangs up, and the president calls the former widow, his personal security, and says that the military camp has been compromised, and so it explains why she's there, which I'm glad Marvel actually had a written reason other than like they were just gonna have her say like, I tracked you here. I knew you would do something.
Tracked your phones. Oh no, you had disposable phones.
Yeah, they brought flip phones. They couldn't be tracked.
So they fight. They become friends now.
They're like, oh my gosh, you're right. They are brainwashed. I just watched a guy kill a bunch of people and kill himself. I think something might be up.
So they work together. They get outside the prison, the camp, and the guys, like these more agents show up. Which the Captain America, Joaquin. These are the smartest people in the movie. His security guard comes up and he's like, "You're under arrest. The president ordered it." And the secret agent lady's like, "No, he didn't. I'll call him right now." And he's like,
don't do that. And then all of a sudden, their walkie-talkies, the song that triggers the brainwash response plays, and then
they're like, "Captain, we just received word that 2 of our F-18 fighters are firing on the Navy fleet." And you're like, "Oh."
And you're like, "Oh, we gotta go."
Convenient.
You know,
and then
what?
it just like doesn't it just like
somehow?
Oh wait, the Hummer placement. We forgot about the Hummer.
The product placement when they first show up to the camp. The all new EV Hummer.
They open up the hood and it's like
the hood opens up slowly because
fog
in this
comes
electric
out.
vehicle, the engine is in the back. And so there's more trunk space in the front.
Where the engine
what do they have
be.
in the front? The shield.
So they get in the Hummer,
movies.
they drive away, they go back to talk to Giancarlo Esposito and
Stanton.
Yeah.
They meet up with the Yankees.
And he's like, "You really don't know. He's just Giancarlo Esposito. Like he's the same. We talked about this.
He's the same.
He plays the same
he
thing.
Pretty much plays the same guy and everything.
He goes up to Captain America and he's like, "You have something I want."
You may not know of the nature of what you have.
But they talk for a little bit, and then they find out that the F-18s are firing on the the Navy's fleet.
Yeah, and at the same time, they take the pills that they found and
they give it to the Navy SEALs.
Yeah, like, hey, yeah, we have a guy who can analyze these, but it's probably going to take about a day.
It's going to take conveniently after the battle.
Yeah.
After you're done doing all the stuff that would be nice to know before.
And then honestly, the most unrealistic part of this whole movie for me, a Marvel movie, the most unrealistic thing for me was right after they find out, yeah, it turns out the Navy is like threatening to fire upon the Japanese fleet at the Indian Ocean where the Celestial is. Like, oh man, we gotta go. Keep in mind, they're on the East Coast of the United States. Jump cut, you see the Celestial, and you see helicopters going up it, and it's like, wow, this is quite the spectacle. This thing is huge. And then you see the U.S. Navy fleet starting to show up, and then you get a wide shot, and all of a sudden you see Captain America and the Falcon flying in. You're like, how much fuel is in those little jetpacks that took them from, say, like North Carolina to
all the way
Indian Ocean?
And not only that, how are their bodies not vaporized? The SR-71, the fastest plane on Earth, would get so hot when it would fly that the pilots could literally hold their food up to the window and it would cook their food.
What probably
These dudes are in there in bodysuits and latex.
Well, it is Wakandan.
Well, only Captain America.
The military, when they got nanotech, figured out that Icarus was just stupid. You can fly as close to the sun as you want.
You could be the sun.
You can get there.
So they fly there.
They fly now?
They fly now. they get to the Navy. They talk to Ross, and Ross is like, all right, I'll call off the attack. And then conveniently, two F-18s start firing on the Japanese Navy. And this is where it comes to my most unrealistic part of the movie. I'm a big aviation nut, especially when it comes to like military. I know an awful lot about fighter jets. The fighter jets that are used are the most inaccurate depiction of fighter jets ever. The F-18s are pretty good, right? Those have been around for a long time, so everyone knows how they work. The F-35 is still pretty top secret. So they kind of just make up crap as they go along. And they've got, like, the F-35s cruising. They've got, like, cruise missiles and dogfights strapped to their bottom of the plane. I'm like, not necessarily, not really
prepared for Japan.
But the F-35 start firing back at the F-18s with Gatling guns. This is where I turned to my wife and I went, excuse me. And I pushed my nerd glasses back up and I went, those are F-35A models that have the Gatling gun. They do not have the wingspan to be flown off of aircraft carriers. And naturally, my wife's like, Tristan, nobody cares.
No one's paying that close of attention.
And I'm like, I care.
You know they're trying to get adamantium in this situation.
Why did the F-35s have Gatling guns from a naval aircraft
carrier? Because they put nanotech in the wings that expand the wingspan.
And why are they carrying cruise missiles in a plane-to-plane dogfight? Oh, it kills me.
Pretty much what you're supposed to be focusing on in this scene.
Captain America fighting the planes, but they put so much detail.
These two F-18 pilots, they're mind controlled. However, you only see one of them get mind controlled, and the other one's like, "What are you doing?" And so you expect, like, "Oh, it's just one." No, this other guy off screen just hears that 1940s love song.
I like to think that he's just blindly following, like, "All right, well, we didn't get the order, but dude, Maverick's doing it. So I guess I'll just fire."
And so they're going.
Captain America, what? Oh my gosh, Captain America's here. He's gonna help. Why is he ripping my wing off?
And honestly, like, obviously, I don't know fully what actually would happen if something like this happened. But I feel like if two fighter jets fired on the Japanese Navy, they wouldn't retaliate with just two more planes.
No, they wouldn't send two fighters up to take care of them.
They're like, you know what? Let's just cancel it out. And we'll be good.
All of these ships have like anti-aircraft. like Iron Dome type stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, send the two F-35s up there.
And so
This is our most advanced plane.
President Ross
Send it up
quickly
there."
gets in contact with the Japanese Prime
Well,
Minister.
I'm also curious since I'm here.
I'll keep talking. The Japanese Prime Minister, he's talking with President Ross, and President Ross is like, I don't know what's happening. They're not supposed to be doing that. Call off your fighters. I promise. We're not we're getting them taken care of. And the obviously, for good reason, the Japanese Prime Minister doesn't have a lot of reason to trust him because he still doesn't trust him because he thought he stole the stuff from earlier. And so he's like, no, you have to get this taken care of. If if you can't, we're gonna probably end up firing on your entire fleet, and fall out of something, fall out of a nuclear
Alright,
type. I don't
yeah,
know, but
okay.
did you find what you were looking
So
for?
I was asking if Japan has F-35s. They do. They have the F-35A, which is what is shown, and they have the F-35B, which is also what is shown. The F-35B is the only one that can take off of aircraft carriers because it's a Harrier.
Well, the Japanese have aircraft carriers the likes of which you've never seen. Don't know. I'm scared to actually talk about this stuff. I feel like I'm gonna get shut down really quickly. You know you're talking about so hard.
No, hold on.
Shut up!
The F-35B does have a gun. This is really just not important. This is my tangent.
This is what draws people to this podcast and not any other where they
the F-35B and the F-35C, which are both variants that we have. The Japanese have the B variant. The only way that they can fire is if they carry a Gatling gun in a gun pod, like what was used on the F-4s in Vietnam. Again, not real. Sorry, I just needed to figure that out. But no, like Ross is like, I don't know what's going on, and so Captain America naturally is like, all right, well, I'm also gonna commit high crimes and rip these planes apart. I'm gonna break into the Japanese F-35 jet, cause the guy to eject, and then I'm gonna cause Japan to suffer like $8 billion in damage for that one F-35. And then if I'm right, he cuts the wing off the second one.
Well, yeah.
Or is that an F-18 that he cuts the wing off? Either way,
he cut it off the F-18. Yeah, because
either way,
because
he causes. I feel like Captain America causes more problems because he's like blowing up cruise missiles. He's blowing up missiles and planes.
Well,
and you're wouldn't Japan also be like, hey, Captain America's destroying our stuff, kill him?
I think. Well, I mean, the main purpose of what Captain America and Joaquin were doing there, because they knew that there was mind control involved, but Japan didn't know that, and they're assuming that none of the U.S. Navy knows that either. And so they show up and they try to, calm things down, try to, stop things from happening. The first F-18, he like breaks into the top and forces it to eject, right? Am I remembering that right? Yeah.
And then he disposes of the other ones, and then the second one,
the other one, like
is
it
about
fires a missile at the Japanese fleet, and Falcon's over there. He's like, I got it, I'll get it. And Captain America's like, don't, I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it. You're like way too close. Like, do not. He's like, I got it. Guess where this goes, ladies and gentlemen listening at home? What do you think happens? Is it A?
Falcon's
he blows it up, and Falcon falls 500 feet into the ocean? Or is it B? It doesn't matter what I say. Of course, that's what happened. He doesn't necessarily get blown up, but the shockwave of the explosion knocks him out of the sky, knocks him out, and you get the Captain America Civil War shot. I'm sure you were thinking about this too, of him falling from the sky. He only has one wing now, just so you can see visibly he's injured. What you see him.
Sam Wilson's like racing down to catch him, and I thought it was gonna be like another Spider-Man No Way Home, where it's like, oh, he's gonna catch him this time, like Andrew Garfield caught Zendaya.
No,
No.
he lands on his back in the ocean.
Arguably the worst place to water
Wearing body armor.
water is concrete from that far.
500 feet? It's steel. Concrete at least breaks. You should just assume at this point the Falcon's dead. And like you get a close up. Also, his visor's busted,
He's all
but
pretty
only on one
he's like
side.
pretty bloody.
Yeah, it's like burnt up. You're like, oh yeah, this is bad.
And he gets a life raft deployed.
Yeah,
It's like,
and like Sam wants to go get him,
and
but
they're
like
like,
at this point he's like connected to the Navy fleet, and they say like we'll send out search and rescue. You need to go stop that final plane, and that's when like he's like, well I can't. Like he's like I can't remember exactly what leads up to the wing slicing, but
it's the
like
well
is he like threatening to like
no, the pilot.
suicide bomb?
Yeah, the pilot is out of missiles, and
And
he's
so
like,
he's
"What
just
is he
dive
doing?" And
bombing.
he's like, "Gonna dive bomb," which I think is not to be racist, is a crazy parallel.
Well, they're against Japan.
It is a crazy thing that the Marvel directors were like, "How about we hit them with our own medicine?" So he like dive bombs at the Navy fleet. Captain America cuts the wing off, and it's like magically still spiraling in a straight path for it. It's got no wing, and he cuts the cockpit. He like gets in there. He shoots a little cable that magically wraps around the joystick, and he pulls on it. It magically stays on.
I don't know how tension would work that way.
But he pulls on it, and you get this cool shot of the F-18, like
Barely.
it's like the scene from Top Gun.
Does that sound effect help you guys know what scene he's talking about?
I'm convinced that they used the same shot of when the Dark Star flies up over the top at the very beginning, and it's actually a Blue Angel that does it. They just used that same shot and just tweaked it like they did. Because it's like
They probably
it's like
used it
1-to-1
for an animation reference.
It's 1-to-1, like.
But barely misses the naval ship
And while
and
this is
lands in
going,
the water.
while this is going on, Harrison Ford's character is being talked to by the leader, the scientist,
Who's
and
like freaking him out.
and he's getting him to turn into the Red Hulk on the ship. And this is where I think, like we haven't really like discussed what we think should have happened so far for this movie. This is where I'm going to jump in and do this. I think that this is where Red Hulk should have came out.
Well, that was like the premise. That was the point. The leader wanted that.
Yeah,
He wanted
like
it to happen because
this is where the movie built up the Red Hulk to come out, and it would have been awesome. It would have been a fun, like, situation for
leaping
them
from
to
boat to boat, plane to plane.
to de-escalate, right? And it would be a good parallel to like the fight that he has against the Hulk in the very first Hulk movie, right? Military versus the Hulk, and Ross hates that the Hulk is doing all this stuff, and he's like, manpower's better, you know what I mean? So it would have been great for that to happen. Like they just de-escalated the entire situation. Oh no, Red Hulk? Well, we got to figure this out now. No, he just calms down, which
It takes him a long time. I mean,
but
like,
it's just
you see his calf muscle get bigger.
it's really just irritating for me because like that's the we were talking about it after the end of the movie. That is like the moment where like the climatic tension is built up to, right? Like that's the high point of the movie, and then they just let it go, and it goes nowhere. And so you're left, at least I was left after that scene like, ugh, I'm no longer really interested in how Red Hulk shows up because he's gonna show up in some dumb way now because it doesn't have anything to do with this. And sure enough, that's what happens. They like right after that scene, they immediately cut to like a cut. They immediately have like a hard cut, and they show Harrison Ford like getting ready to give a speech.
About the treaty finally being signed because they made peace.
Yeah. And Sam Wilson confronts the leader, and he's like, I've got one. Basically, he's like, I've got one more ace up my sleeve. And then he gives himself up. And Captain America's like, a what? Because also the leader kills the Navy SEAL that finds out that the pills are laced with gamma.
And like over the years, he
Have
slowly
turned him into a Hulk. Or Ross into a Hulk. So Sam doesn't know about this, and he's like, "Oh crap, there's gonna be something that happens to the president." So he tries to fly over there, doesn't fly there in time. Manages to fly from North Carolina
To the
all the
Indian
way to the
Ocean in
Indian
like
Ocean.
8 hours, maybe
Doesn't fly to this one across like 20 miles.
blocks. Like they're
But
all in DC at this point.
they show it cuts to Ross giving his speech, and then the speakers get hijacked, and it's the leader, and he's leaked the phone call that they had between the two that like basically just indicts Ross in like crime for using this guy to ensure him a presidency.
Yeah, and like
And he
promising to
gets
pardon him, but doesn't.
and then he gets really angry and he turns into the Red Hulk and he starts rampaging and destroying the White House. And at this point, like you're like, "Oh, cool, Hulk. It's a little late. I don't really care about the White House. None of the movies taking place here. Oh no, he's destroying the West Wing. Could have been the Navy ship."
He destroys a helicopter.
No, but it's a drone helicopter. They can't show Americans get killed in this anymore. But they no, like I just feel like the Red Hulk was really wasted. Like
Yeah,
it at that point, like my problem with this movie is that they built this movie up to be Captain America versus the Red Hulk. And you finally get Captain America versus the Red Hulk in like act 3 point like in act 2.5. Like it's really just the end. It's like the equivalent of an end credit scene, but like in the movie. Like nothing really important happens. Everything that they discuss in that like area, you're kind of like, oh yeah, well I guess the treaty must have been signed. They kept their navies from fighting each other, right? So you have like no weight in the game, and it's genuinely like 3 minutes long.
yeah. I think it like makes it like 4.5 or
Yeah,
something.
like
But
it's a very short scene, and like all of the cool things about Red Hulk, like I feel like are really wasted, right? Like because the Green Hulk, Bruce Banner, he gets more angry when he gets hurt, right? And he kind of like rages. This Hulk, obviously Ross's Hulk works the same way, but he also has a cool new ability that he gets hotter, like temperature wise. Not
they show that when he first transforms because his clothes burn off of him.
yeah,
That's it.
but there was
And
also
his
like
eyes are supposed to catch fire.
yeah, like and they really miss that. Like
Yeah.
they show him getting angry, but they don't show him get hotter.
Yeah.
And like there is one scene where they show like a cherry blossom land on him and it sizzles away. But if you're not like I was watching that because I have ADHD and I pick up dumb details.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small thing that
It's
you
not
don't.
dumb. You're shouting out the
Well,
the
you just
VFX
it's
supervisor.
a scene. It's a little tiny detail that you would miss. My wife didn't even see it, right? But I was like, oh yeah, that's what he does, right? And then Captain America is stupid. This is a shout out to my wife because this is her biggest beef, and I'm just repeating it because it's true. It's just dumb how he de-escalates the entire situation because he originally is like, Ross, the sun's getting real low.
Yeah,
Remember your daughter.
like I guess we didn't mention this, but at like one point, like right before President Ross goes out to give the speech about the treaty being signed before he turns into the Red Hulk, he gets he calls his daughter again because he tries to call his daughter before everything because he wants to talk to her, and she actually answers this time. And he brings up like, "What do you say? Like, we go for a walk to look at the cherry blossoms, like we did when you were little." And she agrees, and he's like all happy, and you're like, "Oh my gosh!" Like he has kind of changed, which like I know that most of this, like we've been kind of like shredding on like President Ross's and Thaddeus's like character development, but I personally, my opinion, I actually really liked how they kind of redeemed him
Brought
in
it
a
home.
way because like that was kind of the goal they were going for the whole time was like he's trying his best to be better for his daughter,
Yeah.
and so like that's why he holds back so much and why like he nearly turned into the Red Hulk on the boat because he was just trying his like he really doesn't want to get angry.
Yeah.
and then eventually, it just breaks loose. And so, understandably, because this is like Sam has been told this by President Ross that he used to walk with his daughter with the cherry blossoms in DC.
He
Um,
tries to de-escalate the situation, and he's like, "Remember your daughter; she wouldn't want this." It just makes the Hulk mad, so they fight. He rips off the Falcon's wings. The Falcon uses the Wakandan technology that he hasn't used in the entire movie, where you can fling.
he used like twice, I think.
He flings part of his wing out.
Yeah, like, my wings are knives, and like obviously this is never something that they need to explain because at that point it's just like too much exposition. But like,
They could show it.
how do the wings really work? Like, is it like a Big Hero 6? You've got like a mind thing and you control it like that? Or do you
Yeah,
need to use your arms and then something else to like eject the,
yeah,
vibranium feathers
yeah.
out of it? Which
And the
they
vibranium also
clearly are.
explodes now.
Yes, because it's like Black Panther's suit in Black Panther, where it absorbs kinetic energy that can then be released like tenfold. Which in Black Panther was a really cool concept.
In this one, well, they also don't explain how he gets it in this one, so he just kind of shows
Yeah,
up
they
with
say
it.
at the beginning, like, the gift from the Wakandans. Which, sure, I guess.
Anyways, so he tries to like calm him down, makes the Hulk mad. They fight some more, and then the fight gets done, and the
Well,
Hulk shows back up again, and he's like,
yeah, he like blows. He
he
they
blows
have
him
like a
up.
slow motion, real intense. The Hulk's jumping at him, finally ready to crush him, and then Falcon rears his one wing back that is charged with a crap ton of kinetic energy because the Hulk's been punching it for the last 4 minutes, and he stabs him and blows up, and you're like, whoa, they spent all their CGI money on that shot. And then like you cut to like a ton of rubble for like the third time in the movie. Sam gets up. He's like, I should have taken that serum. And he's like, I really hope I knocked that guy out. And at this point, the military has all shown up to the street that they've been fighting on. And then the Hulk, all of a sudden, like a car,
Breaks out of the rubble.
like, like, well, yeah, I guess makes sense. It is a Hulk after all.
And then he's like, I'm going to try the same technique that didn't work the first time. I'm going to use it again. And I'm not going to change any word.
I'm out of options.
I'm going to repeat it again verbatim.
We got to do it again. Your daughter.
And
You
then
see where you are?
Hulk transforms back into Ross, and that was a horrifying scene because like the Hulk is muscular and like CGI, and then it transforms back into shirtless, saggy old Harrison Ford, and you're like, oh,
It's really humanized the president.
this is elder abuse.
How much did they really pay him for this?
And then the movie ends. He goes to prison, resigns the presidency,
Yeah. They go to
solves.
the Raft, the same prison that like Team Captain America gets taken to in Civil War when Iron Man visits them and, realizes that he was kind of in the wrong and then he finds out he really wasn't in the wrong, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
like the president, now just Thaddeus Ross is there. Sam visits him. Um,
And cut.
talks to him, forgives him, and Thaddeus is all surprised that he forgave him. And then like something that they kind of point out a few times in the movie, they're like reconnecting you to the first time you meet Sam Wilson in Captain America the Winter Soldier, where Steve comes upon him like counseling a bunch of war veterans who are, traumatized, and he's comforting them and helping them readapt to regular life. And so they talk about how Sam's just like when they're in a moment of weakness, like Sam's only good for counseling and just like talking people down. And then like, during the actual Red Hulk fight, the first time he tries doing that, it doesn't work. And so you're like, yeah, weakness.
Yeah.
You're gonna need more than just words to beat this guy. But then, you know, in the actual pretty heartfelt moment when Sam forgives Thaddeus for what he's done, Thaddeus questions how he can forgive him, and he's like, "If we can't try to work together, then the war is already lost," or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And then it just cuts.
Well, he brings in Betty. He brings in
Yeah,
Thaddeus's
yeah,
daughter,
yeah.
which like I was wondering if they actually were gonna get Liv Tyler in the movie
They
because
did.
she's been out of the Marvel universe since 2009.
Yep.
So like it's been a long time, and which I guess was the point that it's been a really long time since they've talked.
Yeah. Ultimately, like I liked this movie, but it's a C tier movie for me because it had too much going on. I didn't like the leader. I mean, the leader storyline makes sense why they need him in there,
Yeah.
but I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't think they like employed him the best that they could.
Mm-mm.
I think maybe if they had made him more like obviously at the heart of the
They
movie
try to make him
he
like the
was the main antagonist, but it was the trope of like the main antagonist being like in the shadows the whole time, and you finally meet him, and then he's in the shadows for the rest of the movie again. And so like they're setting up for him to be, in later things, but like the post credit scene for the movie is Sam still in the raft, but this time he's with the leader, which like I think I said to you in the theater, I was like, why did they put this guy with Ross
yeah
in the same prison? It's like he'll find a way to manipulate, whatever. But like, and then once again, um, Tim Nelson, you're a great actor. It's just the voice for the leader just really bugged me. Like, you don't know what's coming. Just you wait until the others come. And that's where it ends.
yeah
And I'm assuming that it's setting up for like
Avengers.
Galactus or
Yeah, I think
something.
it's setting up for Avengers because they hint at the Avengers. They name
Yeah.
drop the Avengers like 4 times in the
Yeah.
movie.
And like Sam finally decides, like, I need to restart the Avengers.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it didn't. None of the movies post Infinity War or Endgame have really resonated with me. Obviously, I liked the Spider Mans, but
They're
that's
almost
kind
like
of
a
like
separate
that's kind
entity.
of like Phase 3.5
Mm-hmm.
or 4. I don't know what it is anymore. It's like the ending of the Endgame phase,
Yeah. When
right?
they
With those
start
two.
breaking into the multiverse.
Yeah, but I don't know. I didn't. Not a bad movie. I'd watch it if you'd want to. If you don't, you're not really missing out on much because really it- every movie has had their own gimmick in Marvel since Endgame, and this is the first movie where they've actually had another movie connect, right?
Yeah.
And that is just the Celestial, right? But you don't see any of like the Eternals or anything like that. The only connection is the Celestial
Mm-hmm.
versus like all of Phase 1, 2, and 3. Like these characters interact with each
Yeah.
other,
Like Iron Man
or like
2,
Nick
Incredible Hulk,
Fury.
and the first Thor movie all took place in a week.
Yeah,
And they make sure you know that.
yeah. Like there's hard connections, and they acknowledge like each other's events going on. Um, this hasn't happened in the movies since since an Endgame,
Yeah.
right?
When they actually brought everything together.
No one talks about the fact that these villains ravaged the Statue of Liberty. No one talks about the Mandarin and the Ten Rings. No one talks about the giant Celestial.
That erupted out of the Indian
Yeah, so
Ocean.
it's just odd.
Yeah. But I think, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I think that like they're slowly starting to like bring it back in a way. Like the most recent like Thunderbolts trailer that they just dropped,
Hmm.
where they were like shouting out like in A24 style trailer, and they were shouting out that all these people that worked on the movie worked on like very popular A24 movies. It hyped me up. It was actually like a really well done trailer, and I thought it was
Yeah.
great. However, as many other people have noted, like when they were name dropping like all of the Thunderbolts, they left out Taskmaster, and Taskmaster is not in any of the shots, and so it's like Taskmaster's gonna die in the first act. They're setting that up real easy because no one liked how Taskmaster was done in Black Widow,
No.
me included.
And which is such a shame because Taskmaster is such a cool
Yeah,
character.
like I like just have someone with a videographic memory, not like we turned the antagonist's daughter into a robot. You can plug a USB into her head and she learns all the moves and then doesn't. She does like two things
She
that Black
throws the
Widow does.
shield, and then she
Yeah,
throws the shield.
yeah. But maybe they'll bring her back, bring Taskmaster back in a different way, the right way. Taskmaster's dope, but whatever. We're going too far. We've been talking about Brave New World. Like in the end, my official final rating for this movie is a 6.2.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 5.6, 5.7. Like it's not the worst I've ever seen. Um, but it's not the best movie I've ever seen.
No, but honestly, I think because of the track that Marvel has been up to this point, it's an improvement.
Yeah.
And like up to this point, the only things that have been like good has been like some of the shows, but like most of the shows have still been bad.
Yeah.
But like they're I think they can recover, but like they have to be very careful. They have to be
Yeah,
very
and I really,
poignant.
really just like the key to their continual success is going back to quality versus
Yeah, I mean,
quantity.
I know that they are
I do
definitely
enjoy.
slowing
I
down.
do. I did really actually appreciate one thing I did like about this movie was the CGI because the CGI in this movie is far better
Yeah.
than a lot of like Doctor Strange in the
This might be
Multiverse of
like the
Madness.
first major Marvel movie that they've made after the VFX unions were created
Yeah,
because Marvel was overworking the heck out of all
yeah,
of their visual effects artists.
yeah. I just think that movies should go back to practical effects
Yeah.
with a touch of CGI.
Everyone should be Christopher Nolan.
Yep, yep.
Go for practical first. I want a real Red Hulk.
my favorite, my favorite was the memes coming in afterwards, and it was like it was like interviewing Anthony Mackie, and they're like, "Red Hulk? No, that wasn't Red Hulk. That was legit just Harrison Ford after a fan snuck on set and asked him about Han Solo, and he started just kicking the crap out of him, and they turned on the camera."
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, that's really been our coverage of Captain America: Brave New World.
Yeah. We are excited to keep ranting about things we
Absolutely.
like and don't like about future films, past films, current films,
Anything in between.
anything and everything.
We are for sure gonna have like a music score rating.
We are going to have an entire episode probably dedicated to the majesty of movie scores. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Hint, hint, wink.
But
Can't tell you when that's going to be, but it could be any episode.
but we appreciate you guys tuning in. We do know that this one's been a little long. So if you've made it to this point,
It's because it's the true inaugural episode.
yeah.
They deserve a little bit
Yeah.
extra.
If you're tuning in and if you're at this point, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Ultimately, again, we're just going to do this. Whether or not people listen or not, this is something that we're passionate about, and we hope that it reaches you guys and helps. Really, honestly, my goal is to help people kind of decide what they want to watch and don't want to watch, right? Like, and I want to give like an actual person's viewpoint because I'm not a critic. I even Trevor is a little more knowledgeable in like the technical terms of like movie making and stuff. I am like really just like a
Aviation guy.
glorified. Well, yeah, but I'm a glorified fan. Like I like movies, and if a movie does not captivate me, or if they are too stupid, I will call it out because I'm like I'm a fan. I know what I like. I know what I don't like, and I know what is lazy and what doesn't catch my attention. And so I'm wanting to like at least shape my responses to this as if you also a normal person who works a 9 to 5 who occasionally goes to the movie theater to watch movies with their girlfriend or their wife or their family, right? Like, is this a movie that you would want to watch? I'll tell you. And if it's not, I'll tell you. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. As someone who's working towards being a part of the like filmmaking industry to some degree, I've come to like view films in more of like an appreciative manner. Like I understand, like, yeah, if like this scene was probably like written really lazily, and like maybe the director didn't do the best job, or maybe they picked someone to do the music that like really wasn't up for the task of this type of film. But I also know that these are people doing their jobs,
Yeah.
and like I know, at least to a degree, what it takes to
Yeah.
do some of these jobs, and like, you know, how tight deadlines are, and like the all-nighters these people must have gone through. And so like along with Tristan, I will definitely call out, as we have already in this episode,
Mm.
when something is bad and like doesn't make sense, i.e., flying to the Indian Ocean
In 12 minutes.
in a bodysuit. Um, but at the same time, like from like the technical standpoint, the CGI was much better,
Much better.
and like it sounded
And
great.
it was a little refreshing, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because CGI, not just in Marvel movies, but just across the board, has been, in my opinion, atrocious
Yeah, it's
in the
been pretty
last
bad.
since like 2020. It's been really bad.
Yeah, that's about like, as I said, like a lot of VFX houses across the country were forming unions
Yeah.
because like studios were just kind of assuming like, you do magic,
Yeah.
do it now,
I'm
or I won't
almost
pay you.
I almost think that they were making it look terrible on purpose.
Potentially.
But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know any visual effects artists
Either.
personally, but maybe one day. But anyway, do you have anything else you want to say?
No,
No, me neither.
if you're gonna do a fighter jet scene, do the fighter jets right. Do a little research.
Yeah,
I
and
understand you want to show off the newest tech that always happens,
and
but as someone who respects this stuff, make it realistic because it also just makes other people like that really despise. That's why everybody hates Top Gun because it's not realistic.
I
Not
don't
the
know if
second one.
everybody hates Top Gun.
Well, a lot of people don't like the first one because it's not realistic. In fact, you get you get fined and you get in trouble for quoting the first Top Gun movie in actual Top Gun training. That's how much the Navy dislikes it.
Wow, I thought you didn't have anything else you wanted to say.
Sorry.
We're all about
I'm done.
honesty here at
I'm
Frame
done.
Rate Podcast. But we hope for loyalty in our listener base. Keep returning. Follow us on whatever platform you're listening this to. Follow us on other platforms you don't tend to listen to us on. Just keep up with us as we try to take you on our personal media going experiences. I don't know you yet, but I love you. And I mean that with all that I am. But um I think, yeah, this is us signing off of our first official podcast episode.
Yeah. See ya. See you guys.
Good night, San Diego.